We've been talking a lot about police corruption, but the police corruption exists because of narco-trafficking.
Muchos de los cuerpos se han encontrado con mucha similitud. Similitud en cuanto a la tortura, en cuanto a la manera de ser asesinadas, las violaciones y la forma incluso en que colocan el cuerpo para cuando se deshacen de él. O sea que no pueden decir que estos crímenes no están ligados, ¿verdad? Realmente están ligados y son cometidos por un grupo de personas, porque esto no puede corresponder a un asesinato de una sola persona. Esto debe ser planeado, ¿verdad? De otra forma no podríamos entender cómo se encuentran grupos de cuerpos de 3 mujeres, de 8, de 5 y con las mismas características. Entonces, esto es crimen organizado, sin duda.
The root of the problem has to do with the climate of extreme violence that exists in those cities as a result of the drug trade.
Most narcotics are smuggled into the country on ships or across borders. Customs men are constantly on the lookout, but it can't all be intercepted. A great deal gets through.
Since the 1980s, the violence has escalated significantly. And the reason for that is that Ciudad Juarez and other border cities have become the distribution centers for drugs in the United States.
The geographic advantage of Juarez is simple. Just open a map and look. It connects with the underbelly of the United States at a point where all transportation arteries radiate out from it. It is the perfect crossing point.
Before the 1980s, they were distribution centers, but not on the scale that we have seen in the last few decades. And that came as a consequence of shifts in the flow of drugs from Latin America to the United States, and also as a consequence of shifts in the way that the United States has tried to stop that trade.
And the way that we have tried to reduce consumption has been by militarizing our own communities, pumping up police forces, and by pumping money into foreign security forces, foreign militaries, foreign police forces, and this has not worked. Drugs are cheaper and easier today to come by than ever before.
If these efforts were so useful, you'd think that maybe the price of drugs would not be going down. When was the last time you saw gas go down or milk go down? They go up. Drugs going down. Well, that completely must tell someone that the whole rationale of prohibition is utterly insane.
And all that pumping money into these security forces has done it's beefed up very corrupt mafia-type security forces.
Because of our policies, we have created in country after country several things. One, we have made sure that the big money in those countries just goes to scum, criminal killers that'll sell drugs to us. Two, we've created hyper-violence in those countries because everybody is armed thanks to the joys of the drug business. Three, we've taken governments that may have seemed corrupt before and made them hyper-corrupt because there is so much money in drugs.
It's a horrible situation, and I believe that Americans play a direct role in what has happened there.
You can't sit in this country and enjoy your drugs and not think there's a consequence to it. The consequence that matters isn't your own body. What the hell, you're going to die anyway. You're living off of misery of other people, and you're causing misery.
For many years, we were hearing reports about rapes and murders and other human rights violations by the Chihuahua State Police and the narco-traffickers. A year or so ago, there was a major narco-trafficker that was arrested, and he, at the time of his arrest, was wearing a woman's nipple on a chain around his neck.
Yeah, it's nasty, yeah. I mean, that stuff happens, and what kind of individual would do that?
The most vicious criminals in Mexico and in other parts of the world have gravitated to these cities to participate in this very lucrative trade. And so these communities have been overcome, have been overwhelmed with all these criminal elements. And all this money coming out of the drug trade has also corrupted the local police force and the judicial system and politicians.
It looks like more and more that many of the murders are connected with either the police or the narco-traffickers, who pretty much run the state, run the economy, and have the decision about who to investigate and who not to.
The system operates, enforces, and makes people submit to it through violence, as opposed to, say, some curious little system like elected officials and open government and open trials and freedom of the press. But yes, it's functional. There's no reason for it not to go on. There's no reason for the drug business not to go on, because my fellow citizens want drugs. People like drugs. They drink coffee, they smoke cigarettes, they drink alcohol. They like heroin, they like cocaine, etc. One of the lies of this whole discussion of drugs is to talk about it as a problem without admitting that everybody enjoys having it.
The problem with the drug trade, or the narco-trafficking part of it, is the fact that it's illegal and that the stakes are set up so that people have to shoot at each other over this stuff.
And so you get an inherent, endless, unstoppable violence in the drug world, because if somebody cheats you on a contract, if somebody steals your goods, if someone does anything to you, you can't go to court and sue them. So you either become known as a patsy or you kill them.
Estos crímenes son cometidos por gente que se dedica tal vez al narcotráfico y que con sus cuerpos transmite algún mensaje, ¿verdad? En un lenguaje que nosotros no entendemos todavía.
Put a homicidal individual in that situation, they're just going to be that much more extreme.
Looking at this picture, you light your bong and tell me how we're supposed to stop it.
Bottom line is legalization and reducing consumption in the United States.
The solution that should be done tomorrow is decriminalize marijuana. I think, for one thing, that's just one less link in the illegal chain that you can break away. It's one less channel of economic traffic, of contraband traffic. You can maneuver away from these channels that are endemic with violence.
Treat the problem as a health problem and not as a criminal problem.
You can't have free trade unless you have open borders. And in order to stop the drug trade or to protect the borders from terrorists, you got to close the border down. And so the other factor that happens whenever there's a flare-up in alleged narco violence, which happens, right? There's always a counter-prevailing force that doesn't really want to go too hard against it, because if you shut the border down to deal with this stuff, you also shut tourism down, you shut trade down.
There's definitely a connection between free trade and the narco-trafficking. First of all, if you just look at the agricultural sector, people in Mexico are not able to support themselves farming traditional agricultural products anymore, like corn and coffee. So people are forced with the hard choice of migrating or cultivating a product that can actually be sold on the market at a profitable rate. And pretty much the only thing that can be sold now at a profitable level is drugs.